صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Business or commerce or trade, or in Arabic tijara. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam refers to the previous two discussions that we had as tijaratun murbiha, that it is a trade that is profitable, or a business that has gain. Now, if we look at the purpose or the basis of going into business or opening a business, and there's several types of businesses people have. There's people that plan their businesses. They have a business plan in order to do something. They weigh up things. They get the information on how to run a successful business. There are those that, with this plan, are a bit more casual in some things, and they embark upon what's called a business venture. And then you got those that go on a business adventure, as I call it. Someone that doesn't study, doesn't research, hears about something good and walks into it. Now, your objective of going to business or going into trade is to make money. It's to make profit. No one goes into a business in order to lose. No one works with something in order to make loss. It would be totally outlandish, and it wouldn't be within any intellectual individual or rational individual or reasonable individual to have in their mind that I am about to do something that will end up with a loss. The objective is always a gain. The objective is always a profit. There is capital, and this capital can be wealth or stock that I invest in this business or in this trade. There are two types of trade. One, or business. One, like I mentioned, being a profitable business. One is a business that's run at a loss. One is a success and the other is a failure. Al-Imam Ali ibn Muhamed al-Hadi alayhi salam says, الدنيا سوق ربح فيها قوم وخسر آخرون. He says this dunya is a suq. I mean, this dunya is not in the meaning that it's a market, a mall, more of a marketplace. It's a place of business. This dunya is a place of, imagine this is a vocational place. This is where we come to work. This world is a marketplace. The Imam says, some people make it profitable, others run in this marketplace at a loss. There are successful businesses and there are businesses that are doomed to fail. We have a misconception when it comes to the dunya. Some people curse the dunya. Some people slander the dunya. Our problem isn't with the actual dunya. Our problem with the dunya is being attached to the dunya. For example, the sun. When I look at the sun, I can benefit from the sun's rays as long as I use the sun for my purpose. The sun gives us life. From sun and from water, the plants that we eat from, by process of photosynthesis, create food in order for the plants to live, and we live of or from these plants. And we know this. So we find a purpose for the sun. However, I don't know if you remember when you were doing Year 7 science, or those that haven't done Year 7 science, or those about to do Year 7 science, When you first did your planet charts, back when I was at school, Pluto was still considered a planet. So you'd have all these planets, and they would give you a certain times that you can view. The best time for you to see Jupiter, طبعا using the telescope. And there will be certain times for you to look. Sometimes you'd be able to even see on a normal night, on a clear night, you could actually see Venus. You could see these planets, they look like small stars. However, when it gets to the sun, when you're reading the solar system, it says sun, and in brackets and exclamation marks, it says, do not look at the sun. Do not look at the sun. You're always told, don't look at the sun. Because when you look at the sun, it can blind you. The sun has that effect. Likewise, the dunya. The dunya, if you use it for your purpose, what you need it for, it is beneficial. And this is what Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, in that sermon where he explains the benefit of the dunya, of the terms that he mentions for the dunya, he says, وَمَجَّرُ أَوْلِيَاءِ اللَّهِ. This is the place of awliya Allah do their tijar. Those that are friends of God, those that are near to God, do their business in this world. This is where they fix everything. This is the proving grounds. This is where you till. This is where you cultivate. This is where you do all your planting and cultivate. We are what you would call, we are horticulturalists in this world. We are people that plant and use this world as an investment for the next worlds. He says, وَمَجَّرُ أَوْلِيَاءِ اللَّهِ اكْتَسَبُوا فِيهَا الرَّحْمَةِ وَرَبِحُوا فِيهَا الْجَنَّةِ. Firstly, that this world is that marketplace. The capital that you have is your lifetime. You're living here. That's all your investment is. Your investment is whatever years and whatever time you have here. You're investing in this trade or in this business to see what kind of profit we have. There are those that are too preoccupied in this world. They live for this world and they die for this world. There's a saying that Martin Luther King says. When I say Martin Luther King Jr., when people hear Martin Luther, people generally associate Martin Luther with the Protestant, Christian, or the Lutherans, those that turned away from Catholicism. Or they associate Martin Luther with Martin Luther King, the famous African American activist that they have a public holiday named after. Martin Luther King has a really important saying. When we say a saying, I don't know if you remember, I like to repeat things that actually happened here where people were present. The first night Sayyid Mehdi Mudarrisi spoke here in the Arabic lecture. This is why I always tell people to stay for the Arabic. Sometimes I may not follow this because obviously I've started my lecturing from 7:30 at another venue, so I'm pretty exhausted by then. My mouth's dried up already. Now, what I want to let you know is when you listen, they have something to say. He mentioned the word hikmah. Very important. When I mention a saying from a non-imam or a non-prophet, what we are actually taking from them is a hikmah. What is a hikmah? A hikmah is a guideline or a policy that we already live by. But they have just made it apparent. They have brought it out. He says, Martin Luther King says, he says, if man has nothing to die for, then surely he has nothing to live for. If you have nothing to die for, there's no cause for you, there's no reason for you on this earth, you have nothing to live for. Every single person has something to live for. The majority of people live for this world. And they die for this world. That's why you will hear, for example, you hear this on the news, someone's lover breaks up with them and the next second they hang themselves. Why? Because she was their world. She was everything they had, everything they were attached to. I remember when I was at school, and this event really was carved in my head. I remember the time a lead singer of a band called Nirvana committed suicide, and people began to commit suicide. They killed themselves. People began to go into depressive cycles because they could not accept that he had killed himself. Their life was based on him. They lived for this person. So they had an attachment. There's people that are attached to this world, rather than those that use this world as the sowing ground that it is. The Imam says it is a marketplace, and it says اكتسبوا فيها. Iktasabu means that they gained, they incurred from this what? He says Ar-Rahmah, the mercy. They gain the mercy from this world. This is the world where you gain it from. It says وَرَبِحُوا فِيهَا الْجَنَّةِ. Now what is the gain, the profit that I gain from this tijara, from this trade with regard to this world? Here the Imam says رَبِحُوا فِيهَا الْجَنَّةِ. Last night we began to discuss a bit about paradise, and I stopped at a point because I wanted to bring this introduction in before I continued the discussion. Someone asked me last night when I mentioned the word Dar as-Salam, and he said, isn't this with relation to the Barzakh? The Quran here specifically associates it with the Jannah, with paradise. It says, لَهُمْ دَارُ السَّلَامِ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَهُوَ وَلِيُّهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. This place, this Dar as-Salam, why is it called Dar as-Salam? Why is paradise called Dar as-Salam? It is because it is the secure and the safe abode. Security from what? Safety from what? Safety from all the fears that they live with in this world. Security from all the things that they see around them that could cause harm to them. And then it says, وَهُوَ وَلِيُّهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. That is something that they did. They earned, طبعا, earned not يعني in a, when we say in the fair meaning of earned, because no one can really earn paradise. Earned by the standards that Allah Azza wa Jal has set. Now, this is where we mean security. You know when someone says, I want a house, and you say, why? And I want a good job. You say, I want a house, I want to own a house. Why? They say, I want security in life. You know, sometimes someone is working a job and he's a contractor. They get a subcontract. They get a contract to work in a certain position, and they're on a good rate, but they tell you, look, it's not secure. Within several months, the contract finishes. People, they get these mining contracts. They go work as miners. They make good money. I used to remember the times when they used to go opal mining. And there was a lot of money in opal mining. People would go and they say, yes, I made good money, but it was only a set time. If you remember 2 years ago and before that, when once again we talk about a musician, a lead singer from an Australian band, Peter Garrett, gets in the government and he brings in this insulation, this insulation grant where they allow you to put the fat bats inside your roofs, and everyone preyed upon this, and they were making a killing. Yet, however, there was no what? There was no security. They were making the money, but they knew at one point it's going to be all over. I will not be able to make this money again. So people look for what's secure. However, when you look at this over and over again, you always see something that is imminent, something that is not far, and that is death. And you know I will die. That feeling of insecurity, it kills you. That you do not know when my time will expire. This is the gain of paradise. You don't have that feeling of insecurity. You don't feel yourself withering away with age. You don't age in paradise. You don't get ill. So the Imam says, Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, when he mentions paradise, he says, يَحْيَوْنَ فَلَا يَمُوتُونَ أَبَدًا. That they live and they will never die. This is the first thing about paradise. And for me, this is the ultimate reward in paradise. The fact that is you have eternity in this bliss. It's never going to end. It's not going to stop. One day the angel of death is not going to knock on your door. It's eternity. He says, وَيَسْتَيْقِظُونَ فَلَا يَنَامُونَ أَبَدًا. That they wake up in paradise and they never sleep again. You know how many times you fight going to sleep? You don't want to sleep. I'm one of those people that when it comes to sleep, I do sleep because you need to sleep. Otherwise, I feel like someone's stealing something from me. You know, when you sleep, you want to do something. You feel like it's time being taken from your day that's limited. However, you don't sleep in paradise. There's no sleep. There's no need for sleep. You are always eternally awake. And also, you don't get tired. You're tired in this world. That's why you sleep. You don't exhaust in paradise. And then he says, وَيَسْتَغْنَوْنَ فَلَا يَفْتَقِرُونَ أَبَدًا. That they become rich, so much so that they never become impoverished ever again. You never go through those days where you go, I don't have a cent. Or you go through those days where I don't have money. Or you feel that feeling of poverty. This is what it comes to paradise. However, if you look at that feeling of feeling in need in this world, unlike the next world, where you feel needless, Allah makes you feel like you have it all. If you read Surah Al-Waqi'ah, and there are just some verses that I want to go over. طبعا Surah Al-Waqi'ah breaks the inhabitants of paradise into two groups. Breaks down the people in general into three groups, and then the inhabitants of paradise are two groups. The three groups, see, achieving paradise is one thing, and achieving all the bounties there are in paradise, or whatever of the bounties goes in line, or it's in sync with what? Or it has a correlation with what you've done here. It's not something that you're just given. So I have to do here. I have to act in this world. This is the whole idea of this trade. I have to do specific actions. In the Quran, it speaks about two groups with regard to paradise. One, it calls, they are referred to as Al-Muqarrabun. Al-Muqarrabun are the ones that are brought nigh. When we say brought nigh, they're brought near, in proximity, that Allah Azza wa Jal has favored them. And the other ones are called Ashabul Yameen. The other ones are called the people or the companions of the right hand. The ones that receive their book in their right hand. There are two groups. The ones that are nearmost to Allah are better than the ones in the right hand. But the ones that received the book in the right hand got into paradise. It's good enough. But achieving the further levels, achieving the higher stages, the higher positions, Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ. That when we speak about them, they are the foremost. They are the ones that are foremost in actions. You know, sometimes you hear about people that have done good actions. And then I mentioned on one of the earlier nights, I mentioned about the ones يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ. That they look to do a good action. They search where there's a good action. They don't wait for a good action to arrive. They find out. Have you seen the people, for example, in the center that get up and clean before someone tells them to get up and clean? And they're the ones that involve themselves in functions before people tell them to get involved. Where there's cleaning, they clean. Where there's cooking, they cook. Where there's handing out food, they hand out food. They get involved. They are a number. There are people that work. These people are foremost in this action. They look for where there's good action. They don't wait. And then there are those that turn up to the center just to have a feed. They're still good people because they turned up to the majlis. But they're not like the foremost. The forerunners have a different position. They're way ahead. It says, أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. They are the ones that are brought near to Allah. They're drawn nigh to Allah, as it says. It says, فِي جَنَّاتِ النَّعِيمِ. He, when it speaks about the Jannah, always uses words like na'im. You know, something's na'im, something that is blissful. Because a Jannah means what? The word Jannah means garden. So if I say they are in a garden, you think to yourself, all right, what kind of a garden? You know, who are they with in this garden? What kind of a place? And it says na'im. It is a place of bliss. It's a place that's tender. It's a place of respite and rest. And then it says, في جنات النعيم, and it mentions ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين. Now, of this, thulla means a numerous company. Of the first ones, among the first. We're talking about the first, meaning who? The ones that came before. The ones that early. Obviously, this is also in relation to, firstly, the great number of people that came before. Secondly, there were many prophets, and around the prophets, many great people. However, when it speaks about the akharin, the ones that will come later, it says only a small amount. There is a purpose behind this. There is a reason, and you can see this yourself. If you look at the ones to come, you see the disbelief and the hypocrisy increase and increase and increase. One of the things that amazes me always with social media. Now, I'm not someone that opposes social media. I'm not living in the Stone Age. I'm very conservative. However, I don't oppose social media. Social media, like the internet, like television, can be used for a good purpose. And it can be used for a bad purpose. And when you see the people and what people do on social media, and we're not talking about unbelievers. We're not talking about people that are far from God. We're talking about even people that pray and fast, what they write and what they put as pictures and what comments they put. You know, honestly, you sometimes think, do they kiss their mother with the same lips that they mention the words that they write? Do they have the audacity of some people with some of the things that they write? Because you need to think about, before you write something on Facebook or put a picture up on Instagram, it's accessible to the whole world. You saw that AFL coach that was murdered yesterday, that Phil Walsh. They said his son has been charged with his murder. Automatically on the news, they've got a picture of the whole family. Where do you think they got that? Do you think they went and knocked on Phil Walsh's house while the people are in mourning and said, listen, could we please have a family photo? There's no purpose to do that. It's not the way it works. They need something from you. You have already put everything up there. They can find out anything about anyone anytime they want. Anything. Absolutely anything, because of what people put up there. In other words, the world has become shameless. And this is why it says قَلِيلٌ مِّنَ الْآخِرِينَ. People are shameless. They don't care. People take photos of them doing things you cannot erase. وَإِذَا ابْتَلِيتُمْ بِالْمَعَاصِ فَاسْتَتِرُوا. That if I commit sin, let me hide it. If I've done something wrong, let me cover it up. So لَعَلُّ, because one day I plan on repenting. I don't want this to remain as a stain on me for the rest of my life. That it remains there for the rest of their life. The images and whatever they have put there. This is why you look at this age, it says قَلِيلٌ مِّنَ الْآخِرِينَ. People have audacity these days. People don't have care anymore. People disrespect their elders these days. People disrespect religious authority these days. When we say that, is at the same token, someone may learn something or appreciate learning something from a alim of our ulama, and then at the same time they learn something from them, then they got the audacity to disrespect them. And this is the world you live in today. This wasn't like that before. It never used to be like that. It was different. And this is why, if you even notice the way they used to speak to them, to speak to religious authorities before they just speak differently. People say, hold on, but, and it is a very important point here, the way the world comes today with respect. Look at the way people speak to people that are not respect-worthy. Politicians, they're not respect-worthy, people respect them. People are pleased to meet you. And so, I'm talking about Muslims, not talking about, the bogans you see in the street. They actually give Tony Abbott a piece of their mind. For me, I've got more respect for them than someone that stands next to Tony Abbott and reads the Fatiha. Really. I've got more respect for the bogan that tells Tony Abbott what he is. I've got more respect for these people. So anyway, when it speaks about paradise, it says, عَلَى سُرُرٍ مَوْضُونَةٍ. Taban, here it says that they are seated on thrones that are decorated. When we talk about paradise, a lot of the statements are figurative. But people like this idea of thrones that are decorated, meaning in the sense people like fame, people like recognition, people like to be leaders. Why is it you go ask anyone that is playing, for example, football at a young age, what would you like to be when you're older? They say, I want to become a football star. Why is it that football players do not enjoy the game as much when they're playing without fans as opposed to when there are fans? Why is it that when they score a goal they run to the crowd? Because they want this recognition. They want to be on top. Human beings love to be famous. They love to be recognized. In paradise they are given this recognition. You're a king on your throne. And then it says مُتَّكِئِينَ عَلَيْهَا مُتَقَابِلِينَ, that they're reclining in this throne. They're chilling. They're relaxing. They're enjoying the fruits of their labor. And they're facing the others that have met this position. He says, يَطُوفُ عَلَيْهِمْ, Allah Azza wa Jal, وِلْدَانٌ مُخَلَّدُونَ. يَطُوفُ عَلَيْهِمْ. You sit there in your sahrat, your gadet, the people when you're sitting down. If you go overseas and you see here, they have all these servants around them, khadam. The servant gets and brings the tea, sometimes you're sitting with the host and the host gets up and does things. It's different to when he's sitting and a servant brings something for him. A servant brings the tea, a servant brings the airfare, the things that are being brought forward for the guests, and everyone has a nice and jolly time. In paradise you got these youth that never age. Meaning in words that they're young, so it gives you the idea of the enthusiasm to do things. They haven't reached the age of being insubordinate. At first when your brother is young and you ask him to do something or he runs to do it, then suddenly he hits this age where you tell him, go do this, and he goes, you do it. And you think, man, what happened to this runner that I had? It's gone now. It doesn't work anymore. These people remain around you for the entirety of your time there. And then he says, بِأَكْوَابٍ وَأَبَارِيقَ وَكَأْسٍ مِّن مَّعِينٍ, that these people have goblets. They're giving you these goblets. Akwab. وَأَبَارِيقَ, that pitchers, or as we call them, ewers in the proper language, the one with the spout on it, that they're pouring for you. What? They pour for you a pure drink. A drink that you enjoy. لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون. That in here we mentioned that they do not get ill, nor do they become exhausted. The people of paradise don't become ill, nor do they become exhausted. وَفَاكِهَةٍ مِمَّا يَتَخَيَّرُونَ. They get fruits of whatever they choose. وَلَحْمِ طَيْرٍ مِمَّا يَشْتَهُونَ. Here's one person once told me, لحم طير, that they get the flesh or the meat of the birds or the fowls of what they desire. He said, what if you don't like bird meat? This is what I told them. This is figurative. You can have whatever you desire. This is paradise. Allah Azza wa Jal then says, وَحُورٌ عَيْنٌ كَأَمْثَالِ اللُّؤْلُؤِ الْمَكْنُونِ. I was waiting for someone to make a remark. Here, if you read the words, وَحُورٌ عَيْنٌ. Now when it speaks about this specific subject, it says, كَأَمْثَالِ اللُّؤْلُؤِ الْمَكْنُونِ. Many people, when they want to get married, they look for a trophy wife. They look for a wife that they can walk with. I'm talking about people in general, and others can appreciate her. You know, sometimes you'll see, for example, on Instagram, someone has a photo with their wife, so everyone can appreciate their wife. And someone has a photo of their sister dressed. I've seen a person in the Islamic community who had photos of his wife and photos of his sister. And you know, when I talk about it, sometimes people think he's mad. What's he still living in Stone Age? Yes. If that's the way you think about it, you think I'm prehistoric, so the Quran's prehistoric too. You're not supposed to be advertising what you have. This isn't what it's about. It's not about me advertising and showing this person's pictures so people can think, wow, his wife is hot. That's what they're thinking. No guy is thinking, subhanallah, look at this beautiful creation. May Allah bless them both. If anyone's thinking that, they're mad. Or they're a eunuch. They have no machinery. Nothing's working for them. Because the actual fact in the human anatomy, how Allah Azza wa Jal has created mankind, He has created mankind to be affected. He has created mankind to be affected. So when Allah Azza wa Jal wants to describe what the hur are, He says, كَأَمْثَالِ اللُّؤْلُؤِ الْمَكْنُونِ. That when you mention about this, they are like hidden pearls. They are not pearls only for everyone to see. This is the difference in the state of an unbeliever and a person that is, if you would say, careless in their nature. They like to show their bling. They like people to see what they have. You know, if someone has a $30,000 gold ring, he wants everybody to see it. You know, if he has a really big diamond, you notice they always want people to know that they've got a diamond. Back in the 1980s, there was a guy called Mr. T. He used to wear every gold chain you can think of around his neck to show everyone what he has. As for the believer, out of their humility, they don't like to show people in that sense because they don't want to also alarm people. But as for what Allah has bestowed upon you as a wife, this also is with regard to the women that are listening. The wife is to save her beauty for her husband, not for the world. You know what's happening now? These women are going to gyms, fixing themselves up so they can look good around their friends. And what you people know and pretend you don't know is the increase in divorce. Because then people say, you know what, to the woman, you look really good. Why are you still with that guy? You know what, someone like you, you're so beautiful. Every single person's complimenting her, She goes, you know what? I'm going to go where the grass is greener. See what else the world has to offer. Let me move on. Let me move along. Let me find something else. And they move away. And then they realize that they're in the darkness with all the other people. Allah Azza wa Jal, those that have left, Allah Azza wa Jal, when He speaks about this beauty, He makes sure people know it's concealed. It's hidden, because this is the beauty of a woman. That she has to be hidden. This is the whole idea of hijab. This is the whole purpose of hijab. Inshallah, tomorrow night we continue our discussion We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us peace in this world and in the hereafter, within our hearts and with those around us, and place us with Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, bis salat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.